All right, so y'all already know I'm in my average white guy discovers music era right now. And so today we're going to be doing my top 10 favorite albums of 2023. A lot of change going on right now, as you guys can see. I've got different setup. The camera is different. Lots of change going on here over here at the Media Cave. So also, I just put out a video a few days ago. I did an album covers tier list with my good buddy Aiden Kroll. You guys might know him from TikTok and Instagram. Make sure to go check that video out. First, I'll start off with some honorable mentions. First one's Utopia. I mean, obviously, you know, this is probably in a lot of people's kind of like top albums of the year. It didn't crack my top 10, but I still think it was pretty good. It was a pretty fun listen. It's kind of like, I saw someone describe it as sort of like a blockbuster movie, and I think that's a pretty accurate description. You know, albums like these are always really exciting when they come out. You know, we had been waiting for a new Travis Scott album since 2018. Like, I was literally still in high school when Astroworld came out. So, you know, there was a lot of build-up for Utopia, and I think he mostly delivered on it. Had some fun songs, really good features, really cool kind of soundscape. Yeah, overall it's a pretty solid listen. Another one that cracked my honorable mentions is Guts by Olivia Rodrigo. I didn't really listen to Sour a whole lot when that came out, so Olivia was still kind of new for me. This album came out while I was in Europe. No big deal, while I was in Europe. No, this album came out right around when I went on a big trip to Europe, and I feel like I associate a lot of the positive memories of that trip with the album, so that probably helps a little bit. I thought it was a pretty cool record overall. And then lastly, another honorable mention would be Red Moon and Venus by Kali Uchis. I really liked how smooth and buttery the album was, and her singing was really great. I Wish You Roses was an awesome song. It's like one of my favorites this year. This is definitely a night drive type of album, I would say. It's just very smooth. I love it. All right, anyways, these are kind of my top 10. Number 10 was Let's Start Here by Lil Yachty. Very cool that he did like a psych rock type of album. It was just a direction no one really expected at all. It was kind of cool because he really did kind of like start off the year and like all the music that was to come after that, but then he also kind of restarted his career a little bit and sort of gave it like a second wind. Not that Lil Yachty fell off or anything, but I definitely feel like he prevented himself from falling off, I guess. Literally no one saw this album coming. I could not have told you that Lil Yachty was going to put out a psych rock album and that it was actually going to be really good. You know, maybe it does have a lot of collaborators that do some of the heavy lifting on some songs, but at the end of the day, it's still pretty crazy that he was able to put out a good psych rock album and sort of hold his own. Number 9 for me is going to be We Buy Diabetic Test Strips by Arm & Hammer. They're an underground rap duo, Billy Woods and Elucid. And this album was like one of the weirdest albums that I heard all year, honestly. It just kind of takes you everywhere. And there's a lot of lyrics that I probably still need to unpack, honestly. It's definitely like a big brain album, I guess. But I really liked obviously, like I said, the musical landscape of it. And Billy Woods, like, dude, this man needs to be studied because he literally, like, has not missed in so long. He might pop up later on this list. We'll just have to wait and see. It definitely took me, like, a couple listens to sort of get into it. The first listen, I was a little bit thrown off, but with a couple listens, I definitely see the vision, and this was a really cool album. So at number 8, I went with That Feels Good by Jessie Ware. Jessie Ware is really an artist that I just kind of discovered this year. And I really liked What's Your Pleasure, her album before that, which I also heard this year for the first time, really right around when this was coming out. It's 10 tracks, it's compact, she sings super well the whole time. It is kind of that like type of music that I feel like is like impossible to not like, because it's very like smooth and catchy, and her singing is very, I guess, I don't know, I like her voice because it feels very mature. And she's a very like mature artist, and I also feel like the album is, even though it's only 10 tracks, I feel like it's very like cinematic and grand and larger than life. So I really like those aspects of it. So yeah, this is another solid record from her, honestly. Number 7, I'm gonna go with Quaranta by Danny Brown. Quaranta, if you guys don't know, is Italian for the number 40. One of his first albums was called Triple X, which was 30, and that was when he turned 30. And that album is incredible. So this was kind of like a follow-up album to that now that he's 40 years old. And the fact that he's still putting out albums that are this good at age 40 is just crazy. That's why I like the Andre 3000 interview kind of surprised me, where he was talking about how he feels like he has nothing to rap about anymore. And that's why he did the flute album kind of instead. Because I look at guys like Danny Brown, who are still putting out incredible albums like this at age 40. It's a very personal and dark album, but it's not as crazy as Atrocity Exhibition, which I love, Atrocity Exhibition. But I do like that he went for more of sort of the toned down, reflective nature for Quaranta. What are some of the songs I liked? I liked the intro song. I liked the single, Down With It, Celibate, Bass Jam. All those songs were amazing. I mean, really, the album was great. There were like a couple songs maybe I didn't love, but overall, I thought it was an awesome album. Number 6 is Afterlife by Yeat. I know that's kind of like a 180, but at the end of the day, these are just my favorite albums. I'm not rating these based on like lyricism or like quality. I don't feel like Yeat's music is that comparable to like Arm & Hammer, because they're not going for the same thing at all. So at the end of the day, for me, I really like Afterlife because I'm a big fan of sort of like the rage, trap sort of music, and I feel like this album did it better than any of the other albums that were going for that this year. You know, I feel like in Yeat's like sector of rap music, I feel like he did it the best this year. Considering how many songs were on this album, I really did like a lot of them, which is pretty good for like a 23 song Yeat album. So I had this album on repeat a lot when I was like in the gym or like in my car. It's just a good album to kind of just vibe out to and sort of turn your brain off for a moment. So I really liked it. All right, so we're into the top 5 now. Number 5, I went with Heaven Knows by Pink Pantheress. This was a weird one because my first time I listened to it, I like wasn't really rocking with it that much. And I was kind of like, I don't want to say disappointed, but I was like hoping that I was going to like the album a lot more than I did on first listen. That's what I'm saying. Like, you really gotta like listen to an album sometimes more than once to actually like it. Like the same thing with the Arm & Hammer album. I like really wasn't feeling it the first time, but then after, you know, a couple more listens, it really sort of clicked for me. That actually happened with Afterlife too, now that I think about it. The first time I listened to Afterlife, I like wasn't really that into it. But then second or third listen, I was like, okay, I get it now. She's like so good at making hooks. Like the Boy's a Liar hook is awesome. Capable of Love, Mosquito. But dude, this album's so good, man. It's so catchy. I don't know how Pink Pantheress makes this music that's like so catchy. She's probably like one of my favorite artists right now. Now, my top 4, I would say, is like way above the rest of my top 10. Like the top 4 definitely like stands alone in terms of like quality and like how much I enjoyed it. These were so hard to rate because like honestly any of them could have been my number 1. Number 4, I went with Lahai by Sampha. Dude, this album is so good, man. I know he made us wait for like 6 years, but it was like literally worth it. Sampha is gotta be one of the most like underrated artist right now somehow. I don't know how he's still underrated. Maybe he's not and I'm just making that up, but genuinely, dude, I don't know how more people aren't like just raving about him. Process, his album before, was amazing too, but you know, on this one, his voice is like an angel. I love the themes of the album where he's talking about sort of struggling to find purpose and then sort of finding that through his daughter. He just sings like an angel, bro. And the beats are all so cool. Like, it's so well produced, man. It's like, this is another album that I feel like is like impossible to hate because his voice is so cool and all of the instrumentals are so interesting. Like, I don't know how anyone could not like this album. It's kind of got something for everybody because it's got super like artful songs like Dancing Circles, and then it's also got really catchy songs like Suspended and Only. So yeah, dude, I love this album. Make sure to listen to Lahai if you haven't heard it yet. Number 3, I went with Maps by Billy Woods and Kenny Siegel. You know, Billy Woods making it on my top 10 and 2 different albums is pretty crazy. That just speaks to how consistent this guy is and how he's like allergic to missing. I think this album is honestly his most accessible album to date, which is pretty cool. I really liked Hiding Places a lot, their previous album that he did with the producer Kenny Siegel. It's sort of a more kind of like darker sort of album compared to this. You know, this album still covers a lot of more like serious topics and is very like heady in nature, but I do think it's a little bit more, I don't want to say like lighthearted, but it is kind of like more catchy and accessible. But the main focus of the album is sort of tour life. You know, you can see the cover of the album is kind of like the information, like the safety information card on a flight. I think Billy Woods on this album comes through with one of his most like cohesive albums ever, but at the same time, it doesn't lose its quality or lyrical capabilities or anything like that. So, you know, I could have honestly, like I said, any of these 4 albums really could have been my number 1, and this included. You know, it's awesome. So shout out Billy Woods, man, and Kenny Siegel too. Number 2, I went with Desire I Want to Turn Into You by Caroline Polachek. This album was on repeat for me all year. Her voice is crazy. Like, it's insane. Like, I've watched videos of her performing live, and it's like, it literally just sounds like it's been already recorded and mastered and everything. It's crazy. I'm so mad at myself, bro. I could have seen her live, but I didn't want to go to the concert by myself, so I didn't go. And I'm like still kicking myself for that, because it was for this album. It was, you know, just a few months ago. Anyways, this album is awesome. It has definitely some of my favorite songs of the year on it. 12 tracks, pretty much no misses on it at all. And it's just awesome. Well, and dude, the album cover is a 10 out of 10 too. Like, I think this is genuinely my favorite album cover of the year, which I know doesn't go into like the musical aspect of it. But for me, I'm definitely like a visual guy, and I associate, like, a lot of times I will associate the album with like the album cover. And I like for both of them to be really good. And this album has that. Like, I think the songs are amazing, but then also the album cover is awesome. Shout out Caroline Polachek. And then my number 1 album of 2023, if you've seen any of my other videos about music or anything, you probably could have guessed this one, but my number 1 album of the year is Scaring the Hose by JPEG Mafia and Danny Brown. Now, this album I did get to see live because I went to the very first show of the entire tour, because they came to Nashville for their first stop. This concert was actually right by my old place, so I literally just walked there. But I went with a buddy of mine. Oh yeah, I went with Jack from Meme Movies too. Yeah, I forgot. You guys know him. I think it was also his album of the year. The beats on this album are crazy. They still put a lot of creativity and humor and things like that in the lyrics, but, you know, this obviously is not like Quaranta. You know, there's not a lot of serious, dark, emotional sort of lyrics on it. They're really just having fun on this thing. When I praise Peggy, I feel like I'm just being like the average white guy, but at the end of the day, dude, like, this is like incredible music that we're witnessing with this man. This man puts out nothing but 10 out of 10 albums. I don't know if I can say that, but this man puts out nothing but great albums. Like, he and Billy Woods just like never miss. Honestly, same thing with Danny Brown too. I feel like Billy Woods, JPEG Mafia, and Danny Brown, like, all those guys have incredible discographies because they put out nothing but quality. Every song is so unique and memorable. The opener, Lean Beef Patty, Step a Pig, the title track, Garbage Pail Kids. This record is so sick, dude. It's literally like 2 of my favorite artists of all time coming together, making an incredible album, and it's only a volume 1. Like, they're literally going to come out with more of these, and that's just like super exciting to me. I've already given this album so much praise the whole year, but yeah, I'm still bumping it just as much as I was when it came out. So shout out to Danny Brown, shout out to JPEG Mafia. I can't wait for volume 2. Well, anyways, these were my top 10 albums of the year. Make sure to like the video, comment your favorite album of the year, and also let me know if any of these albums were on your top 10 albums of the year. Thank you guys. I'll see you next time. Bye.